when we started this program, one of the things we observed was that people were working in silos. The central bank was doing its own job, the Ministry of Finance was doing its own job, and even the Ministry of Economic Planning was doing its own job without looking over the shoulder to see who else is doing similar things, how they can coordinate, how they overlap, and so on. So we started this program essentially to put these economic managers in one room, across one table, and have them talk about issues that are common to them. And at that time when we started, in fact, it was impossible for some ministers to even sit with their own governor and talk. So the first thing, the most important thing is we wanted to enhance coordination amongst the fiscal authorities and the monetary authorities. And I think it's important because they are all managing one economy. They have a common interest, they overlap, and they complement each other. So it is important for them to sit in one room and just talk about common issues. So that's where MEFMI comes in, and that's the importance of this forum. MEFMI will be celebrating 20 years next year. We started in 1994. At that time, the problem was sovereign debt. As you may recall, that was the time that, the Jubilee 2000 and, HIPIC and debt relief were just taking shape. What our African nations wanted to do was to develop capacity to understand debt issues. How do they contract debt? How do they manage debt? How do they manage servicing of debt? So because all of them were going to the same donors and asking for help, the donors turned around and say, you know what, you have a common problem. Why don't you form a grouping so that when we come to do interventions and to capacitate you, we are doing it to a group all at once. And that's how MEFMI came about. When we started, of course, it was sovereign debt, but then it soon became clear that you can't talk about sovereign debt without understanding the macroeconomy. And you can't talk about sovereign debt without understanding the financial sector. So that's why the acronym MEFMI was crafted to accommodate macroeconomic and financial management issues. That's what MEFMI is about. So now we cover those three areas: debt, which is our oldest program, then we cover macroeconomic issues, and we also cover financial sector issues where the banks come in. So everything to do with banking, from the central bank perspective, as well as from the commercial banking perspective, we cover them under the financial sector management program. Unemployment is still an issue, and it is an issue because of the interesting point that was raised this morning, which is that there's growth which is not job creating. Therefore, that is a big challenge. But the other challenge that I see on the African continent is infrastructure, which is a theme that we are dealing with. Because really, without proper infrastructure, even when an economy is growing, you cannot get to your markets. You need a good infrastructure, be it for communication, be it for transportation, even infrastructure for you to be able to introduce modern facilities in banking and payment systems. All that requires good infrastructure. Communication, we have seen what the mobile technology has done to Africa. It just shows that there was that infrastructure gap in Africa. And then there's the macroeconomic issues, stabilization of currencies, dealing with inflation, the whole issue of financial sector management, corruption, bribery, how to just manage resources. It's one thing to generate resources or to generate incomes, but quite another to manage the resources. So that is still an issue. And for most of our countries, they are discovering natural resources. And how to manage those natural resources is going to be another challenge for the next several decades, because we've seen it happen, the Dutch disease issues, where you discover oil, you are extracting it, there's a lot of money flowing in, but you don't know what to do with it. Eventually it goes on to create other problems for you. So those are all problems that African governments have to deal with.